We have started the streaming on YouTube, and the anchor will introduce you, and then you can. There would be a small introduction video, and then the anchor will give the stage to you.
Okay.
Good morning to all. My name is Pushkal Khatri, member of Entrepreneurship Development Cell, Acropolis. Welcome to the second day of LitFest 2021. The fest is based on the theme Cognizing Digital Spaces through stirring dialogues on art, society, and storytelling. This fest will present progressive outlooks on society, self-care, and literature. It will also provide you with enriching insights to accentuate your literacy skills through gamut of events. Let's recap the first day of LitFest. We have a great panel discussion on debunking myths about societal diversity and inclusivity by Ms. Sunita Lal, Ms. Ashia Sherwani, and Mr. Rishikesh Gulavni. We had another session on combating depression through writing by Mr. Ni De Silva. He gave his insights in a very empathetic manner. We also had a Hindi session on Sahitya Se Dur Hote Yuva by Mrs. Sushma Vyas. As a youngster, I experienced it wholeheartedly. Last but not least, we also had a session on nuances of magazine writing by Ms. Palak Agarwal. Now, I would like to welcome Ms. Kratika Singhi, IIC leader, Entrepreneurship Development Cell, to give the welcome note.
Thanks, Pushkar. Good morning, everyone. I heartedly welcome all the guest speakers and audience to the very first literature festival of Acropolis LitFest 2021. The fest is based on the theme Cognizing Digital Spaces to Stirring Dialogues on Art, Society, and Storytelling. Books have been appreciated in every corner of the world. Literature has been celebrated for its effect on culture, and language has no barrier in the wonderful habit called reading. So I believe so large variety of audience have joined us today. There might be readers who want to meet people who wrote the words and the worlds that whisk them out of their perspective to entirely a new one. There might be budding speakers, authors, writers who want to uplift their writing skills, or just the curious learners like me who want to enhance their literary skills. One doesn't have to be a reader to know and enjoy such thoughts, provoking discussions and events. You hear it said often that people don't read anymore, but the almost alarming rise in the number of authors, the book writers, who attend the literature festival have different stories to tell. Indeed, to a great extent, these literature festivals have regenerated the interest in books. Yesterday's sessions were very interesting, very insightful. So I believe you all will enjoy the last day of Acropolis LitFest 2021. Thank you. Over to you, Pushkar.
In Satyug, there were gods and demons who symbolize light and darkness respectively. In Dwapar we have the same situation between the Pandavas and the Kauravas. But now in Kali Yuga, we have this situation in an individual as Kalki and Kali. But all we need to do is to wake up the Kalki avatar in our souls to bring the humanity alive. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our speaker today, who will talk about weaving mythology for young readers. Our speaker is a mythological writer who has written 9 books till date. He is founder of Hubhogs, a part-time gamer, and a TEDx speaker. I would request IT team to please play the introductory video. As stated by Margaret Atwood, myths cannot be translated as they did in their ancient soil. We can only find our own meaning in our own mind. Keeping this in mind, I would like to welcome Mr. Kevin Missel to put forward his insights on mythology. Over to you, sir.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm quite excited to actually be invited. So I'm Kevin Missile, and I would like to just thank Acropolis. I would like to thank Shruti, who connected with me, as also the students of Acropolis, and and quite an exciting venture that Litmus. This is the first year. I didn't know that this was the first year of you guys. You guys doing pretty well. I even saw the yesterday's feature, so that was going pretty well. Aside from the formalities, I am a writer. I'm a professional writer. I am also recently became a very stubborn and a exhausting entrepreneur. I am also as you know a part-time speaker, part-time gamer, part-time a lot of other things. The fun thing is that I'm quite excited to be here to share this, share about the ideas of mythology and share the ideas about how mythology I used to, mix with, so that it connects with the young readers, connects with the modern readers, to be honest. I used to always, as a kid, so I'll just tell you a little bit about my journey first, so that, that because my journey was what eventually became the product, the books that I have written was a product of all the journey I had. So I started off as pretty much, a 12-year-old boy who had no idea that he even liked reading books. But I used to play with a lot of action figures. I used to hate books at that time. But then eventually what happened is I read Oliver Twist, in one of those CBSE books, and I just fell in love with it. And I was like, wow, this is pretty interesting. I would want to read something along the lines or more, and even write something along the lines. So I wrote a page, I still remember, and that page was so bad. But then I wrote another page, I started reading more and more. I started to understand more and more. And then basically by the age of 14, I published my first book, which was then released at, by the chief minister, then chief minister of Delhi, which is Srimati Sheila Dikshit. And after that, I published another book at the age of 16, and then 18, and somewhere or the other, I kind of just lost the charm of writing, because I was never quite feeling myself. I was thinking that I was not good of a writer, because when I released my first book at the age of 14, what usually happened was that my fellow members, fellow colleagues, fellow students, batchmates, they used to berate the fact that, I have written such a poorly written book, which is understandable, because I was 14 years old. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just rehashing whatever I was reading. And that time I was reading one of the most definitive books of mine, which is Percy Jackson series by Rick Riordan. That I think, while people were reading Harry Potter, I was reading Percy Jackson, and that was all the books that I had written was very much similar to what Percy Jackson was, because that was the only source of inspiration I had. And then I jumped over to Pendragon, to Harry Potter as well, and I loved all of these mythology sort of fantasy books out there, because people say it's a fantasy, these are fantasy books, but I personally feel these are mythology books, because they infuse a lot of mythology into them, world mythology, not just a singular, a particular region's mythology, except for Percy Jackson, which focuses on just Greek. So I wrote. I continued to be a voracious reader, but I was not a really stern writer anymore. I left writing and used to write in 2 to 3 years. Those were the gaps, because I kind of just lost self-confidence in me, and probably by the age of 18, when I was just about to enter college, I wrote a book that also just did 200 copies. It didn't sell that much, and I just thought that probably I'm not good of a writer, and probably I can't make a career out of this, because I think because, as you all know, writing is a very, very tough profession. It's literally yesterday only I was at a bookseller with a bookseller at Calcutta, and she was saying that I come in that 0.001% authors who have made it, because 99.9% authors don't, they are struggling, and they don't make it, to be honest. They don't make money out of it. They don't make a profession out of it. So, so that's what I thought, at the age of 18 and 19, and I was like, my books are not selling. Probably my writing is not that good. probably the market, the industry is not supportive. Probably the culture of writing in this country is not helpful for a young buddy writer like me. So I just continued with studying at St. Stephen's College, Delhi, and I studied history. And little knowing that history would play a huge role in my writing career, I used to not study at all. I used to stay in the back seat and used to listen to a lot of podcasts, or listen to I was used to watch TV shows or whatever, and teachers used to not know that. But whenever the exams used to come, I used to study immediately. Like I think that's every student, every backseat student, backbencher, I guess. So and then what happened was, when I used to study there, I used to learn a lot about the Arab culture. I used to learn the early modern civilization. I used to learn even during the and they used to all these things really used to really make a hit on me, because the thing was, it was very interesting, to be honest. I used to feel the history is because I still remember, I think Shashi Tharoorji said to in one of his talks, he said that if you don't know where you came from, you don't know where you how will you know that where you were going. So I think that was pretty interesting, because because that statement was basically my life in a nutshell. And I came out of the college and I was confused. That time Bahubali had released, actually, and my dad was watching. He was in Chennai, and he was watching Bahubali, and he was like, Kevin, why can't you write something like that? And I'm like, I don't think so I can, because I don't have the caliber, first of all. I had no self-confidence at that time, and I'm like, I don't think so I can write it. And he's like, no, why don't you just try? I think it's a pretty good just write some epic story. So I researched a lot. I tried to find a lot. And, as a kid, I used to be a big lover of Star Wars, because Star Wars in itself is actually based on mythologies and everything. And I saw Star Wars that time, and I realized that, Kalki Avatar's story is very similar to what Star Wars was. Basically, probably Star Wars must have, taken the entire theme of it from Kalki Puran only. How would I know? But yeah. What that interested me so much that I was like, what, I think I need to create like a hero's journey, kind of like where a hero goes to his journey, goes on a journey, learns something, and he's a naive hero, but he learns something, and then he just goes back and fights the villain and wins the day. That was the entire crux of the Kalki book and the Kalki series, which came to be. So I wrote the book, and as it began to develop, I realized that the hero journey was just the backbone, but there were so many things more added to it. He had a brother, Arjun. He had the villain was multi-layered. It was not just a angry man who's trying to spout bad words. There were a lot of themes attached to it. There were a lot of intricacies that were happening. I had mixed Mahabharata and Ramayana within it. But the idea when I was writing Kalki was that I do not want to have anything which would just bore the reader, because just as that, mythology has been bad-mouthed, at least during that time, to the time that it's a boring subject, it's a boring topic, which I personally don't feel so. I think because it infuses culture, it infuses history, and it infuses fantasy. There are three things that encompasses mythology, and it infuses most of a truth that is your truth. So I think when these four things combine together, I think mythology is a fascinating subject. And when I'm mixing this age-old heroes and battles and wars like Mahabharata, like Lord Krishna, like Lord Ram, and including into this Kalki Avatar's book, which I did actually, it made me feel, that you are kind of making your own Marvel universe kind of a thing, and that was the idea, is to create this universe of, Vishnu avatars where everyone just comes together and fights for the greater good. And the idea was to retain in Kalki the original mythology, obviously, but it's also to retain the original themes attached to it. So one of the most important themes which I tackled in Kalki and the Kalki series as well is the idea of dharma and the idea of choosing the right path. Because dharma for me, it's just simply about making a choice of doing good, choice of doing better, than the rest of them. And it's about doing the right thing. I think Kalki is often told by his peers and by the supporting cast that it's not about what you want to do. It's about what you think is right and what is the right thing to do. And I think that really signifies to me, because that, again, it goes back to the Star Wars days. The Star Wars talks about, again, it is about dharma, and it is about good versus evil. And this is, again, Kalki was that. And it kind of just made me, I infused a lot of pop culture like Star Wars and Star Trek and Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter as well, Percy Jackson as well. But it also, because that kind of brought in the modernity in the writing style, as well as I brought in the age-old themes, I brought in the age-old characters, and I brought in the age-old situations, which kind of just made it kind of like a balance of, which somehow I connected mythology to the modern readers. And that was the Kalki journey. And after Kalki, when I wrote it, I was like, wow, this is interesting. I think I am quite excited to release this to the world. But till that time, I had been rejected so many times. I had people were not really excited to like get my book on, and I thought that I'm still not a good writer. Probably I must have written a good book, but I'm not so sure that I'm a good writer. And I was like, what, I'm just going to give it a try. I've just graduated from college. People are doing IAS, and people are doing, because I came from a arts college, so arts subject, I mean. So people were going to civils and PhDs and whatever, studying MA or whatever, and going abroad as well. And I was here writing a book. And obviously one would feel, why am I, what was I doing? Because I could have easily done something else. But I took that risk. And obviously, thanks to my parents who supported me with that risk. And I came up with the book, which was, we self-published the book, and we realized that, okay, so we need to now make sure that it sells. And I still remember I used to go to all these distributors, and I used to go to all these places where where I used to travel 10 kilometers every day to in Daryaganj in Delhi, where it's a book market, and trying to pitch my book to everyone to say, please do buy this book, please to entertain this book and everything and all, and no one would take it. Until the time I realized that I have to be prepared. So I came with the book cover, I came with everything, I came with the brochure and everything, and I went to Prakash Books, which was the biggest distributor in the country, which still is. And they looked at my book and they said, oh, this is pretty interesting. I'm gonna ask the superior about it, and I'll get back to you. And a day later, the superior approved it, and they ordered 6,000 copies. And I was pretty shocked. I'm like, how is that possible? 6,000 copies, from a kid who was just doing 200 books, 100 books, to 6,000 copies. And for me, it was a dream come true. And I'm like, okay, this is not, how will we fund that? Because, this was our money. We had self-published it. But again, we took the loan, got the book out and everything, and it went to the stores. Then I got approached by a literary agent, and he started supporting me. And that book, 6,000 copies sold in a month. And now we are sitting at close to, I think, Kalki Trilogy is more than 150,000 copies. But that didn't stop me from writing more, because I think I realized that probably my writing has magic, and probably those years of me crying about the fact that I'm not a good writer, probably those were my learning years. And so while everyone was going out for further studies and everything, I just continued writing books. And the next series that I worked on, which was Narsimha. And Narsimha was a very fascinating subject for me, because first of all, he's the angriest avatar of Lord Vishnu. And he said that when he wrote, the entire world trembled. There were the earthquakes and there were tsunamis. It was that powerful. And what usually happened was that what really fascinated me entire the Narsimha's trilogy is the fact of the story of Prahlad, which was he went through a crisis of faith. He's a boy who was born in an Asura culture. And in Asura, what happened is that there was that they didn't believe in gods. They believed in themselves. And Prahlad wanted to believe in something. He was always someone who was having a crisis of faith, who wanted to have kind of a belief where it was like, that thing will guide me. And the idea of writing Narsimha, in short, was the fact that when I was, because I as a kid used to be in beginning religious, I came from a Christian household. And then, I was exposed to other religions as well. And it kind of made me realize that I am someone who respects all religions. I am someone who would want to read everything out there. I'm not someone who's going to be like, oh, I'm just going to go to the church. I want to go to, mosque. I want to go to temples. I want to go to Gurdwara, everything. So the idea was, at the end of the day, that I'm someone who believes in all religions, who respects all religions, and also believes in the superpower. So I realized that I'm an agnostic. I believe in some superpower, but I don't know what it is. And again, my parents are very supportive in that decision because they came from a very strict Christian values. That again brought me that if I was having a certain crisis of faith, how many kids of my age, or probably younger than me, must be having crisis of faith, which is in terms of, that they believed in something else, but because of society, because of the parents, because of XYZ, whatever, they were not happy. They were not able to follow what they believed in. Even if being atheism, even following atheism, that's fine, as long as you believe very strongly about it. That's again, at the end of the day, it came down to what Prahlad's story was all about. It was about what I wanted to convey was, it was about the right of having that liberty of choosing your own faith, of choosing your own belief. And that really impacted me because that was very close to me, and that is why I wrote it. So the idea of writing mythologies in the current culture is obviously, which I realized as I continue to develop, because in the beginning, you don't get to know a lot of things, but as you keep writing, you kind of understand, is that if you mix modern ideas, if you mix modern thought processes, like I spoke a lot about the freedom of, choosing your partner, the freedom of Kalki too. One of the major characters in Kalki, came from the LGBTQ plus background, and same with Prahlad as well. I mean, we talk about Holika, who was a single mother. So there were a lot of things that I wanted to focus on, which were very modern, which were very, which people now are able to be more, they can be more expressive towards those particular topics. And thus, that is why I personally feel how a mythology to connect with the modern readers could work out. Because the thing is, if you take out those themes which are working really well, which are doing really well, I think it somehow will do well in your book if you connect it with the mythology. So Prahlad happened, and Narsimha, 2 books I have released. It's sold close to 60,000-70,000 copies. It did pretty well. Obviously, the COVID thing happened, so second book couldn't do that well, unfortunately. But we continued with the thing. And the next book which I wrote was on Meghnad. Now, Meghnad was, as everyone knows, is the oldest son of Ravan. And Ravan was always a fascinating character by everyone because he was the definitive villain of entire Hindu mythology. If everyone thinks of one villain in Hindu mythology, they don't think Duryodhana, they think Ravan, because he's been portrayed in such a way. So the idea was to talk about how someone who is so considered as this evil man, what would be his son like? And I researched a lot about him. And again, going back to the theme, I chose the theme which was very modern. So the idea for Meghnad was that how someone who's a chauvinist man became more had more ideas in terms of what they would want to expect, and he left his chauvinism to become a feminist. So it was basically, at the end of the day, a story about feminism, because which was pretty interesting because it's about a guy who has no idea about how to treat women, how to he had no idea how to be around women. He would order them around. He would treat them as slaves, and then eventually, through particular actions, he realizes his mistakes and he does a lot of and he redeems himself. So again, modern topic but old story. That's how I weaved again another thing. Next book, which was basically the one which recently has released. I mean, there are other books in between as well, especially Sinbad, for instance. But there again, why and everything, and it's not the Sinbad was more on the idea of what once upon how it was kind of like an ode to Rick Riordan. But one book that I recently released, which was Skand, everyone knows Khan, which is he's the most challenging and the most controversial character of Mahabharata, being the fact because some people think he's villain and some people think he's a hero, and some people think he's an anti-hero. So you don't know what he is, and the idea was to challenge him, was to understand where it came from. But again, when you're writing about someone like him, how do you mix the past idea, the past story with your modern ideas? So during that time, I was going through panic disorder, which was a kind of like an anxiety, and that happened because I was not doing a particular. I had a very sedentary life because writer's life is a very sedentary life and it was not very active, and that led to me having anxiety, and that became very problematic for me because बचपन से यही सुना था that. And mental illness is not a real thing, and that is what now thankfully there are conversations and there are debates that are happening, and there is a discussion and discourse about the fact that it's a real thing and it should be treated as an illness and not as just it's just a thought. So when I started having it, I realized that wow, this is not good, and I need to speak about it. I need to speak about it through my books. So I kind of incorporated that feeling of anxiousness, that feeling of hopelessness when you go through something like anxiety and having these panic attacks into a Karna. And the idea was about how he kind of just went through so much. He was himself going through a lot of problems. He developed that anxiety, but he still every day overcame. He didn't solve it out, but he still overcame. He still fought every day and he still continued to fight every day. So the idea was, at the end of the heart of the story was obviously, I want to talk about mental illness. The same way it was not just about his book, his book, which was his story basically, but it was also about the fact how there were other characters as well. There was a character which I created, which was an LGBTQ plus character, which was again called Baby, and you learn a little bit about her as well. So I make sure that it's always inclusive. It's always very very something that any reader out there doesn't feel left out in terms of anything. So Karna was, at the end of the day, it talked about a lot of things and a lot of stories, which obviously, like I told you about the main part, but that was it. And that is how I ended up incorporating all the mythologies which we have read in the past, but into the modern lenses, through the modern lenses, so that readers like you, readers like of your age range, could actually understand. Because to be honest, when I was growing up, I couldn't get those kind of books which talked about these things, unfortunately. Now the same writers are talking about those things, like for example, Rick Riordan came out with a non-binary character, who was Loki's I think offspring. And the idea was that now people are doing about it, but the thing was, I couldn't get that now, and I wanted to focus on basically through these books talk about these characters, and that was always the fun. So so thank you so much, Acropolis. I think that is one of the few things. If there's any question regarding anything that I've spoken, please feel free to ask.
Thank you so much, sir. After listening to you, I am eager to read your new book, Karna, the King of Anga. Sir, there is a request from our audience by Ms. Trapti Parasha. She is requesting you to write a series on story of Krishna and his son Sam. Mother is Jamvati.
Yeah. I the funny part is actually I wrote an audio book, so I'm partnering up with one of the biggest. I'm actually already partnered up with Audible, actually, which is an Amazon company, and with them I have actually created a sort of like a how should I say, a book which is based on the Mausala Parva, which is the last Parva of the entire Mahabharata. And it talks basically about Krishna's journey and his son Sambha as well, Jambavati as well. So that audiobook will probably release, it's an audiobook original. So it probably will be released in the next 1 year. But yeah, definitely I've already written on it.
Thank you, sir. So the next question, then the question is how to silence one's inner critic. Things like I'm not good enough, or no one will read my stuff if someone wants to be a writer.
See, the thing is, I had been suffering through that inner critic for almost 7 years. So don't wait till like me. I could have written a lot of books before that. I think one should realize one thing is that you're basically bleeding on the page and letting the world see your true self. And there will be critics. There will be a lot of problems that people will face. They will not be happy with your writing. They will not be happy with the story. They will not be happy with a lot of things. But all you need to kind of realize is that whether you stay true to your story, stay true to your themes, and if you are honest and confident about your work, just go with it, because people will hate it. I mean, Kalki is still hated by a lot of people for a lot of reasons, be the fact that it was not edited well, be it the fact that it was not done well, be it the fact that there were a lot of the Kalki was not as good as a character, but still did well because you bled and let the world see it. So
the next question is, when it comes to penning mythology, how much creative liberty can a writer take?
The idea should be that to keep so how I work with the mythology is that I take this how should I say, milestones in a particular story. So I'll just give you an example. For instance, Karna's birth, Karna's Gurukul days, Karna's days with Lord Parshuram, Karna going into Mahabharata, right? So these are the milestones that you have. You know that these things happen, but you don't know what happened in the between, right? You don't know while in Mahabharata people were talking about the Pandavas and Duryodhana. We don't know what Karna was doing meanwhile. So the idea is to basically fill those gaps, to fill those milestones. So that's where you can add a little bit of fictional element, but keeping true to the milestones, keeping true to the fact that the milestones don't get affected. The road doesn't take an off thing. Yeah.
So the next question is from Neha Patel.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Greek mythology?
I really love it. I love Greek mythology. I think I as a kid I used to read a lot of them. I think everything that I have written ever was kind of like a inspired from Greek mythology. But when you read Hindu mythology, you realize that it's also like Greek mythology, to be honest, because there's Indra, which is Zeus. There is Varuna, which is like Poseidon, and so that's the funny part. So basically, when you read about the Rigvedic gods, which is basically your these are the Adityas like Indra, Varuna, Vayu, Agni. You kind of realize that these are why are these gods is because of the elements that they represented. Like Indra represented storms and skies and thunder. The same way with Zeus represented thunder and skies and everything. He was the king of gods, just like Indra is the king of God. So when you think about these things, it's quite similar. So I think definitely I love Greek mythology, but I think one should also read the Rigvedic entire stories of Hindu mythology.
So the next question is from Sagar Maheshwari. In today's yuga, should one fight criticism like Karna or accepts it like Lord Krishna?
I think that's a good question. Because Krishna and Karna, I think they are the. The thing with it is that I'm still more of a Krishna fan, and I'll tell you why. It's because if you look at Krishna's and Karna's journey, both their journeys go through the same wavelength. They were both disbanded from their mothers. They were both taken away from they both fought through with the Asuras. They both gone through a lot of problems. People wanted to kill them, and they were discriminated as well. Lord Krishna was a cowherder, and he was a Sarthi's son. So the idea was that they both made different of, they both, while Lord Krishna went through a more positive change, Karna didn't. Karna went into the more negative one. He became more and more resentful. And that kind of becomes a bit of a problem, because you shouldn't let the criticism and the discrimination affect you. It definitely affects you to the point, but you should also realize that how will you use that as an opportunity to grow as a character. Definitely, I feel that I'm more on the side of Krishna. So yeah.
So the next question is from Asta Chauhan. How much authenticity should we expect from mytho fantasy fiction in terms of comparing it with the authentic sources?
So sorry, can you repeat the question?
The question is, how much authenticity should we accept from a mytho fantasy fiction in terms of comparing it with authentic sources?
I think you should not accept anything which is authentic in any mythology book out there. I think I would consider everything fictional. Even though we do the research, even though we work on the research and everything, please don't think of it these are authentic work of sources. That's why I always have these disclaimers in the beginning, which talks about that these are all fictional elements. This is nothing to do with authenticity. This is nothing to do with. This is just for you to be to have this stepping stone to actually read these epics, to read these Puranas. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. I would request IT team to please present a digital memento.
How are you going to give a memento?
Thank you so much. Now there is a break. We will be back after a short break at 12:15.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me. Cheers.
thank you everyone for being with us. Lastly, previously, we had a session with Kevin Missel, sir, on the topic pathology. The session was fabulous. I would like to thank Kevin, sir, for such a great session. The fact that we need to explain what feminism is the very reason why you need it. Equalizing rights of men and women is feminism. And a person who believes in power of women just as much as anyone else is a feminist. It's not a matter of men versus women. Instead, it is more about pride versus prejudice. So, why are people afraid of feminism? People are scared of it just because they have this feminist world has created a very this feminist world has created a very common misconception, or I would rather say it as it has turned into a different dimension. So the reasons are innumerable, but I think that is most relevant one is feminism is reaching on a new level of cultural relevance that it hasn't enjoyed before in last few years, but now it has become a major priority. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Shashank Tripathi, an adherent of gender equality, a proud feminist, and your anchor for today. Many people around us are not aware what feminism is. They are misjudged and misbelieved about the concept of feminism. Many people, being the believer of feminism, and they have feministic thoughts, they believe that we should really have feminism, but they rather say that we believe in equality, gender equality. Why? Just because they have a very common misconception about feminism, that it wants to establish one upmanship for women. So our speaker for today, Mr. Altamash Khan, he works as a project coordinator at MAWA, Men Against Violence and Abuse. He sensitizes young adults and boys on the topic gender-based violence. Now I would request our IT team to please play the introductory video. Now, I would ask Altamash to put forward his insights on our talking point of today. Why are people afraid of feminism? Please, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, team, for that introduction. I never got to see the video. I think it was streamed on the for the people who had joined us on YouTube. Like it was visible to them. Okay, great. Hello, everyone. Thank you for this invitation. I'm like really honored and humbled to be part of Litmus. And we as an organization, MAWA, we have had collaborations in the past as well. And when I was reached for this event, and when I was asked if I want to speak something around feminism, initially I was really happy that in a space like this, generally because these are themes which are at times considered to be limited to certain kind of academic disciplines, certain kind of colleges. But it was good to see like a professional college like Acropolis taking up these topics. Not just this topic. I've seen the the list of events, and there've been some very fantastic and really interesting themes that you all have curated. So congratulations to the team for putting it together, the organizing team, the IT, and everything. Everything is so on point. So yeah, so I don't have a lot of time in my hand. I was given, I think, initially 37 minutes. So I'll stick to that time. And when I was thinking, right, what exactly should I say? Because in the beginning, as in my introduction, it was said that I'm a gender trainer, and for me, 37 minutes meant okay, like what exactly can I say? 37 minutes to ऐसे ही चले जाएंगे. So then I thought, because the topic is why, why are people afraid of feminism, or what is feminism? I thought that people are afraid of feminism because maybe the first thought that came to my head was that maybe there is not a clear-cut understanding of about what feminism is, right? What's the definition of feminism? What it means is what we know could be a popular understanding of it, which might be framed through the social media, through the internet, which might have some half truth or half lies, given that the internet scenario right now, I mean, there is everything is the data or the content is out on the internet, and then as a consumer also, it becomes very important for us to make that sort of distinction in the the authenticity of it as well, authenticity of information as well, what we are consuming. So in that sense, I thought that it would be interesting if we can maybe in the beginning talk about what feminism is. And then when I thought about it, okay, how do I put this forward? What do I just like look for some definitions, some feminist thinkers? Acha, okay, someone like Simon de Beauvoir said something, or like Betty Friedan said something, some of the most popular feminist thinkers, especially from the West, when we say. And then I thought it will be interesting, maybe because this is more of an informal sort of a session. I mean, very formal, but at the same time, I want it to be informal in the sense that I believe these conversations need to be more informal, right? Jab tak hum will restrict these conversations to be very formal and very, in a setting wherein there is not a lot of scope for a discussion, I don't think so we can go forward. So I think there is certain, a flavor of informalness, if I may use the word, which is required when we are having this discussion. So I would expect that we can continue that same level of informalness, maybe in the chat box as well. So in the YouTube section, whatever you want to ask, there we are not like, I personally am not sticking to any format of I'll like complete it and then you ask me the question. Let's just keep it interactive. I would have loved if you all would have been in the same room, but I know because of the number of people joining and it's going to a larger audience, it might not be possible. But feel free to come in and feel free to ask your questions. Okay, so what I thought was, instead of bringing in those definitions, what I'll do is I would want to share my own journey, my own understanding of feminism with you. Like, what was my journey? How did I negotiate that word? Okay, how did I navigate, rather, not negotiate, but how did I navigate, in that discipline initially with women's studies, and then into the field of, I can call it activism, can call it some sort of development sector work as well. So, and it's something which is constant. It's not that I've got a definition of feminism now and that is in place. It's something that I daily refine. It's something that I daily rework on. It's like a constant learning. Like every time I'm out in the open, every time I'm in the home, I'm in my house, if I'm doing something, there's this thing that we say that we need to have a certain kind of lens to see the world, right? I mean, we have different lenses. I mean, we do have these artificial lenses as well, but in a way, there is a lens that we have, which we can call it a perspective, right? That the ideas that we believe in, a belief system, if I may say so, right? So, and then for me, I believe, gender becomes that lens with which I want to look at the world. That, okay, acha, ye situation hai, if I get up in the morning and if I want to read the newspaper, right? If I want to read the newspaper and I believe that I can sit and read that newspaper for an hour, and just have that time to myself, I think feminism for me would teaches me or would make me think that kya wo ek ghanta being a man in the morning mujhe mil raha hai, is that a possibility for my mother? Does she have that liberty to maybe get up in the morning and just say, guys, relax, I need to have this 1 hour with my newspaper. My father can very well have this. My grandfather can very well have this. I can very well have this, right? But can I think wherein, I mean, right now with the world, shifting to online, we can always say, okay, we don't really read, but I'm just giving an example. Like, I'm sure there are still people who like to hold that newspaper. There are a lot of people who have that morning routine, right? They have to have their newspaper in their hand. So that's what. So a situation like that, how I have understood feminism is, to begin with, is to look at things critically. For me, feminism was that. I mean, yeah, equality, liberty, justice, social justice, those are the words that are obviously attached to the word feminism. But again, as I said, it's something that I'm talking about my own personal journey and how I made sense of it. Right. And it can be very well like that. I don't think so. There has to be there can be universal definitions. There are definitions that you can Google, you can look on Wikipedia, I'm sure. But I think something when I'm talking about a belief system or something that you would want to believe in, it's very important that you make your own definition of it. You make your own you should have your own idea of it, how you make what you make of this, right? Like, say, if I believe in religion, or if I believe in like mythologies, or like the last session, if I just want to take from there, right, it need not necessarily be some sort of a popular understanding of that literature, of that text. There can be very well interpretations that you would want to make for yourself, right? Unless and until you think that it goes with the higher, the larger theme of it, I think your own interpretation works. And I think it also helps you, it helps you grow as well in some way, and also have that very intimate relation with that sort of belief system. It's not just restricted to ideology then, because feminism for very well can be an ideology as well. It's a belief system, it's an ideology. But when I make sense of it with my experiences, being a man, what has been my experiences, coming from an identity, like, say, if I'm a Muslim man, me being a Muslim man would mean something else, right? I mean, that is also a part of my identity. Me coming from a certain class would mean, that my identity is framed in that sense. So from my own location, how do I make sense of the word feminism? I think that for me is something which I think we all as a group, all as a individuals should try and do that. कि मेरे लिए क्या इसके मायने हैं, मेरे लिए क्या इसका मतलब है. So I think for me, as a kid, at times, because people ask, okay, how do you end up here? Women's studies कैसे कर रहे हो? अच्छा, you are a man, like how come you're doing this? So I think one common relation that I see, with me growing up, because a lot of times what people expect, because a lot of and like that's true as well, because violence is a reality, inequality is a reality. So it won't come as a surprise if I say that, okay, I saw violence in my house, I saw inequality, injustice, discrimination in my house. It's very much a possibility, and I did see that as well. But again, I wouldn't say that my that sort of woke me, or that sort of pushed me into being here. I think the first thing that when I look back, and with my understanding of feminism now, I didn't have the vocabulary, right? We don't. There are a lot of times this is what happens. We might be students of commerce, right? And we at a very like undergrad first year, we might read about assets and liabilities and money, but that doesn't mean that we were unaware about commerce. We were always, every time we go to a shop, we do some sort of transaction. That is very well a commerce. So there is a possibility that we might not know the vocabulary of certain things, but say something like gender, say something like commerce, something like economics, these are very much part of your life. This is not something which is happening, wo alag hai and we are living like separately. So I think that one aspect of it which personally, pushed me, or that the connection that I see, is what I think feminism tells you is to question, right? Is to raise questions, and that too, to raise questions to the powerful. You question the powerful, you question the people in power, you question the oppressor, so to say, who is oppressing people in a way. You question the authority, right? And you also question anything. You want to use your logics, you want to use your feminist logics, if I may say so, and then you want to make sense of that world. So as a kid, I thought that, this will be interesting to share. I'm not sure if this will be controversial in any way, but as a growing up in a Muslim family, so this is belief, people who follow Islam or would know about it. Pig, the animal, the piglet or pig, yeah, whatever. So that is considered to be, this word, we call it haram, right? It's something which is not allowed in a way. There is haram and halal, right? So haram being anything which is wrong, like taking bribe, drinking alcohol. These all in like Islam. I'm not a person who is a believer or who is a practicing Muslim or anything. So a lot of these information have come from my parents, some like first hand information. So I don't have any backing to religious text and all. I could very well be wrong, but but again, coming from what I heard from my parents was this, that as a Muslim, pig is something which is haram, and thus if you even say the name, if you even call it out, if you put it in, if you actually say it out loud, your tongue becomes impure for a day. So as a kid, and this is me, in 6th, 7th standard, like a 13, 14-year-old boy who is just trying to make sense of what all is going around, also trying to figure out, okay, what this whole idea of praying is, what is it, how is it making sense to me, what am I saying, what am I asking for. I was actually questioning it in that sense as well. And when this thing came up, the first thing was, the idea came up this only. Okay, first and foremost, you're saying that the universe is made by a God, right? It's made by Allah, someone, and then so technically by that logic, so everything that exists in the universe is being made by this person, God, whoever that is, right? So like, how exactly, when this person has made everything, at what point have we made that distinction, or how have we made that distinction that this would be something which would be bad, or this would be something just talking about which would make you impure. So I used to feel really bad for the pigs, as a kid. Yeah, ye to galat hai. These are like normal creatures. They're probably, stay in an environment which, especially particular to India, you see, they're not really farmed animals. They are farmed, but that is again specific to caste as well. So there is this sort of caste hierarchies as well to what you see, right? Okay, because the pig meat is consumed by certain people belonging to certain religion or belonging to certain caste. Pig is farmed by people belonging to certain caste, and those people in that caste hierarchy would come, would be in lower, so to say, in a popular sense. So then again, those are all ideas which are constructed as well, I very much believe. So I used to feel very bad, and every time used to, the namaz, the idea of it is that it goes, and at one point when you finish it, you read a dua, right? You finish it with a dua wherein you ask for certain things or you wish for certain things. So I remember my dua used to, like, it used to contain of this, wherein I used to be like, like, because those prayers, those namaz were also very, one time an event. Like every time India used to play a cricket match, I used to basically, pray that, they should win. That was the relation that I had with praying, which was pretty, yeah, selfish, I guess. And then I used to say that, like, take care of everyone around me, take care of everyone in the world, and if you add that, and also take care of the pigs. So that is something that I used to bring in during post my namaz again. And I always thought that, because it's haram, it is, so to say, it will bring me sin or in some way. But I think I was of a belief that, if how I understand what you have told me about God and its creation and everything, I don't think so me taking name of a particular animal would do any harm to anyone here. So I think that sort of idea, when I look back, questioning something, a belief system which I don't believe in, or it's not backed by some sort of logic, wherein I don't think there is, if I can't make sense of it, I'll question it. Basically, I'll question it. Also, I think that questioning becomes the first sort of entry point to feminism. And for me also, I think feminism means, questioning, as I said in the beginning as well, right? So that sort of became my personal journey, like, became from questioning. Then it was through readings, when I was in undergrad, I had a paper, we started reading it, and it made more and more sense. And then, as I said, and then it's a continuous learning. You learn every day, you try and make sense of the world around you every day with the lens that you think that you have developed, right? So again, coming back to feminism, or say a women's movement, it's a movement. When we say feminism, it's an idea, it's a belief system, but at the same time it's a movement, it's an आंदोलन जिसको बोलते हैं. एक आंदोलन है जो चलता आ रहा है. It's not something which is finished. And because it's continuing, it means that the objective of the movement are yet to be achieved, right? If you talk about any movement, it will continue till what point? Up till you have achieved certain goals. Say if you look at freedom struggle, it's not that it's still continuing, right? The objective of the freedom struggle was to get that freedom from whatever colonial powers, right? We got that, and that movement got over. But when we talk about certain movements that are going around, we saw Black Lives Matter the last year, which was against some sort of white supremacy, or which was against the racist ideas. So that is something which is an ongoing movement, because we know that racism still exists. We know that, color-based discrimination still exists, right? Similarly, when we talk about feminism, the movement still exists. The movement still prevails because we know that injustice is a reality. We know that gender-based violence is a reality. We know that sexual violence is a reality. We know discrimination is a reality. We know discrimination in civil rights, access to those rights is a reality. So first and foremost, that becomes very important. I say that it's a reality because a lot of time what happens is that we don't want to acknowledge it, right? We just want to think that, "Arey nahi, aisa kuch nahi hota hai." Okay, every time a Me Too movement comes in, our immediate reaction is, "Arey nahi, this though is false. This though is all like publicity stunt. This though is all to malign someone's image." Right? That's our immediate, because we don't want to acknowledge it. If we saw like this month itself, like I think we are all aware about those data, that how many rapes happens in an hour, in a day, everything, how unsafe is the country, right? For me personally, the big issue is, the big challenge is that we don't want to acknowledge it, right? We don't want to acknowledge it, that that inequality exists, and violence is nothing but a manifestation of that inequality, manifestation of that power imbalance that exists, right? So what happens is, every time, because then what happens is, if you don't acknowledge the problem, what happens is, when something happens, you try and look for justification, right? A rape happens, your immediate response is, okay, what was the woman doing there at 2 in the night? Okay, what was she wearing? Okay, who was she with? Oh, what was she doing with her boyfriend? Who goes out at 2 with her boyfriend? What sort of girl has a boyfriend? Right? We have all those. We see, and this is not something which comes from, very well could come from us as well, comes from people who are sitting in parliaments, comes from the CMs of states. We saw that remark, if women stop wearing ripped jeans, there might be, some sort of change that we might see in the sexual violence or the sexual crime that is happening. This is a statement made by, made by an individual who supposed to be the CM of a state. People who are sitting in the parliament. I was seeing this interview. Again, I don't want to name any political party or want to name people, but yeah, I mean, this is a member of parliament who is talking when asked about Me Too, when asked about, an allegation that was made on, a Rajya Sabha member from their party. The response to it was, and this is a response which is not backed by any data. This is a response which is backed by a sheer sort of an dismissive attitude, wherein you are so you're so filled with power, you have so much of power that you don't want to even legitimize something. You just want to dismiss anything that you see, is coming from someone who is less powerful than you. I'll just repeat that sentence. You would just dismiss it because it's coming from someone which is less powerful than you, in a way. So you don't want to acknowledge it. So when he was asked that, you're so and so, your big Rajya Sabha member was, there were these allegations that he sexually harassed this woman, and not just this woman, but multiple women. To which his response on a live TV as in, it was on YouTube, but I think right now the kind of YouTube access that people have, it's very much a very sort of a legitimate sort of a space that, you can go and speak, and it can't be that you can go and say anything. You have to be responsible, even if you are on YouTube, I believe, right, in a way. So to which he says that, I'll tell you, 85% of these cases are false. Okay. And this is not something which is coming from any, okay, this is the NCRB data, the National Crime Record Bureau says that 85%. This is something which is a typical, a bedroom, or sorry, a drawing room conversation between some men, some middle-aged men who are saying, "Arey, ye sab cases to jhute hi hote hain." Right? It comes from a very that sort of an idea, because this is not being backed by anything. But what is being backed by is that 99% of the cases of sexual harassment goes unreported. Now that is the data which is backed by research, right? So now that's what I think, that's where the feminist movement or the idea of feminism also comes in. That a to talk about rights, equalities, to talk about those injustice, and one very important thing again, which I have made sense of it for my own ways, which is feminism would teach you to stand with the marginalized, would teach you to stand with the oppressed, right? There's this very a very revolutionary thinker who is a man. Some of you might know about him. There was a recently, Tamil Nadu government passed his birth anniversary as the Social Justice Day, who is known as Periyar. Let me know in the chat box how many of you have heard this word Periyar. A great thinker back in the days, in the 19th century, who talked about women's rights, who talked about caste issues, who talked about the religious sort of supremacy and the religious ideas which would then propagate some sort of superstitious in some ways. So he was someone who really was very vocal against it, and he talks about this.
And I've heard his name in the Periyar sanctuary, wildlife sanctuary. Wildlife sanctuary is named after Periyar.
Sure. So you might have heard him in that sense. But he said it, and I think we all should read him. Try and find out some readings on Google, and do read these people. Periyar, Ambedkar, Phule. These are like people who were much ahead of their time, right? I mean, in some videos of a woman, beating a man on the road, which it was clear that the woman was wrong. So how should one differentiate? Sure, Yashita. I'll definitely come to that part as well. So wherein he talks about this idea that, given any situation, I will stand with the oppressed. If you talk about religion, I'll stand with the religion which is getting oppressed. If you go inside in it, religion ke andar, if you see caste, I'll stand with the oppressed caste. If you go within religion, I'll stand with the gender. If there is an oppressed gender, I'll stand with the oppressed gender. I think that is also the idea which I also believe in about feminism, which is, standing with the oppressed, a space which is inclusive, and which is inclusive of a lot of things, not restricted to gender as well, which obviously I think as a movement also, if you look at feminist movement, that is something which also, feminism or feminist movement inculcated. Initially, when we look at the history of feminism, if you look at first wave of feminism or the second wave, which is, late 19th century or early 20th or middle or late 20th century, we see that the ideas were very much restricted to women initially. The first wave of feminism that we see was primarily civil rights, was primarily just political rights. कि हमें voting rights चाहिए. And these were women from the US. These were primarily white women. The one that we know of, when we talk about feminism, these were white women who were fighting for their political rights. These adult franchise, like everybody who is an adult needs to be vote, because earlier the voting idea was very much restricted to only men, and within men also could be certain other categories of men as well, like white men and other sort of hierarchies that existed back in the society. So then the movement was going on during the second wave, which is around 1960s and 70s. We see Black women come forward and they're like, here, our questions are not being raised here, right? Because although you might say women's issues, but you being a white woman and me being a Black woman, there is a difference. This is not a homogeneous category. This is not something, you can't see us as one. Because along with that gender discrimination, racial inequality is also a reality. So you might be facing some sort of discrimination because of your gender, but when it comes to me, a Black woman, I am facing discrimination which are at two levels. One is gender driven and it's also based on race. So I need to raise my questions. My questions are different. Then there were homosexuals. There was the whole gay movement that comes in, who says, "Kiya, you are talking about your rights being a heterosexual cis people, but our issues being a lesbian woman, being a gay man, being a trans person, I don't see my issues being, represented in this whole debate." So then you see, feminism in that sense, growing up, and feminism including, or these people, in a way including these other politics, politics of race, politics of sexuality. Then we see it comes to India, wherein Dalit women says, "Yeah, mere issues bahut alag hai." Maybe like the popular opinion that you're talking about, my reality is different. My lived reality is different. Caste is very much a reality in India, and my experiences are being driven by both my gender identity as well as my caste identity. So you see caste also becoming part of, feminist movement, or that idea of caste movement becoming very much part of feminist movement. Then you say disability, like disabled says ki, ha, like being a woman, there is certain discrimination, but me being a disabled woman, I'm having different issues. I'm facing different problems. My issues are not being raised here. So then you see, this is something that we call as intersectionality. These
Sir,
are,
I would add on some things, sir.
sure.
So these are the very common points which lead to very common misconception once again, that the people say it as fake feminism. Rather, it is more about upper class and lower class.
Yeah.
But they relate it as fake feminism, or they are not doing it in a good manner or in a positive manner.
Absolutely true. So see, that's what I think we should be critical of feminism. I think that's what also, when, as I said in the beginning, right, feminism teaches us that. So if I'm being a feminist, and that's the reality within the feminist movement, within the feminist circles, you will see a lot of disagreements. You will see a lot of debates. You will see a lot of, not approving of certain politics. But that is based on the idea of what you just talked about. That if you are being sort of, ignorant of my existence, of my identity, being a white woman, you're talking about women's rights, but when I'm bringing you, listen, talk about racism as well, you're saying, no, that is not our issue. We'll talk about only, gender. That could be, again, I don't want to use fake feminism. I'll just say that is not feminism, right? There need not be fake pseudo words like this. I don't approve of these words, because there's a reality. ठीक है, अगर मैं बोलूं कि for example कुछ भी popularly, अगर मैं बोलूं, I think there are engineers in the house as well. So if I say न्यूटन का law क्या है, ठीक है, equation of motion क्या है, ठीक है, तो अगर मैं बोलूं s is equal to ut plus half at square है, ठीक है, और अगर मैं बोलूं कि न्यूटन का लॉ है, न्यूटन का जो इक्वेशन ऑफ मोशन है, क्या कहते हैं, some random thing I say, ठीक है, can I say that is a fake or pseudo definition? No, that is wrong. There is no pseudo or fake to it. I don't approve of it, or like the popular community or whatever. It's not feminism. It's not laws of equation, laws of motion or whatever, right? So there need not necessarily be, we have to have that, because what happens is that this creates a divide, because already we see there is a lot of division happening. There is a lot of inequality that exists. What happens is then these words are then used to, sort of, this is something that we had a discussion as well, me and Shruti in the beginning, that, what happens is then, because these words are often used by, I'll get to that question which was asked, that, that video that surfaced of a Lucknow women, hitting that man. So what happens is when we talk about these words like feminazi, we talk about, pseudo feminism, fake feminism, what happens is, because there is a movement, feminism as a movement is trying to question the powerful, right? And what happens is when you question the powerful, it is to question their authority, is to question their sort of dominance, right? And when the power is being questioned, their authority is being questioned, their सत्ता, जो हम एक हिंदी में वर्ड होता है, जब उनकी सत्ता पे सवाल उठाया जाता है, तो they will do all sorts of things to make sure that satta is retained, that power is retained, right? And then to make sure that satta is retained, what they will do is they will also implement a system, right? They will also have a counter sort of a thing to it. So I believe that these are sort of counter, when we are questioning patriarchy, when we are challenging patriarchy, this is the response. You question it, अरे fake होगा ये तो. You question it, अरे नहीं ये तो सब गलत झूठे केसेस होते हैं. ठीक है. You question it कि we want representation, अरे नहीं ये तो मतलब so that becomes that. So that's why these words like, and feminazi, what exactly is that word? How can you possibly equate a movement which is talking about equality, inclusivity, justice, social justice with an idea that killed 1 million people? Right? You have to be, it's very absurd. It doesn't make sense that you say you add those two words together, to make that word feminazi, to think of an idea wherein people were literally thrown into gas chambers were killed mercilessly. How do you possibly equate it with a movement which never talks about war, never talks about that there should be war, never talks about peace, talks about equality, talks about justice? So yeah, so I think we as people who are learning, who are reading, should be very mindful of that. Okay, not to fall for this. I see this as propaganda. It's some sort of propaganda which tries and delegitimize the movement through these mechanisms, through these means, right? So obviously question feminism if it's exclusive, if it's just it's talking about only certain issues, if it's talking about only a certain identities, if it's talking about only certain people, do question about it, do question it, but get a proper understanding. But so once you get a proper understanding, you will say that I know feminism. You won't say that that was fake feminism. You say that that was just any random idea, right? Any random idea can't be. So like, yeah, loved the feminazi point. Okay, thank you. So coming back to the question of that. So again, when you're looking at these incidents, I look at it through a very intersectional lens, that I'd say, right? That intersectional that I talked about. I don't see a woman hitting a man there. What I see is a driver who belongs to a certain class, right, being hit by a customer who believes that that driver is a working class person and requires and can be treated in a certain way, right? If that man would have been the owner of that car instead of being a Wagoner which says it's an Ola would have been a BMW, the reaction would not have been the same, right? Irrespective of whatever the power dynamics were, irrespective of whatever intensity or whatever happened in there, it would not have been that. The idea that we get that we can exercise violence is, for me personally, violence is nothing but a manifestation of your power, wherein you can feel that, like a man who at times domestic violence is a reality, right? And at times you see, yaar mood kharab ho gaya tha, pati ka isliye maar diya, had a very long day, had a very frustrating job, and just it was building up, and then he came back home and he just hit just one slap, right? That idea. My question to that at times becomes that he was frustrated in his job. अगर उसका बॉस आके उसको 4 गालियां भी देता, क्या वो उस पे हाथ उठा सकता था? नहीं, because there is a clear cut power dynamics here, because that वो जो एक hierarchy है, एक organizational जो एक professional hierarchy है, वहां पे you don't have that power. But at home, given that structure of husband wife, given that structure of family, जिस तरह से we look at it, so to say, culturally, traditionally, whatever, a man or a husband knows that this society has given them certain power. You question it, that's up to the husband, that's up to all of us, how we question it, right? How we question it on a daily basis. But given that he can exercise that that thing कि अच्छा ठीक है, मैं हाथ उठा सकता हूँ, that is nothing. There is no logic to it, there is no reasoning to it. The only thing is there is no amount of, had a bad day, had a rough day, was frustrating, could be this, could be that, nothing. It's just a clear cut exercise of power wherein I feel that I can do this, right? In a college setup, a senior bullies a junior if possible, because they know that the setup is such that they have got certain power being a senior, right? So in that, again, coming to that, the question that was asked, beating up, how should we differentiate between a feminist and a pseudo-feminist? First and foremost, begin with violence. I don't think so. For me, feminism wouldn't mean violence. Would mean, violence but that would mean that, अगर वो लड़ाई होगी तो मेरी जो ढाल होगी या मेरी जो तलवार होगी शायद वो मेरा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन होगा, मेरा संविधान होगा, ठीक है. It will be that sort of a fight. It will be that sort of a protest. It will be that sort of a violence. Again, I don't want to use the word violence because it's not correct. जो वो पावर का इस्तेमाल भी होगा फेमिनिज्म में, बट वो पावर ओवर नहीं होगा, वो शायद पावर विथ होगा, राइट. वो पावर ओवर किसी को कंट्रोल के लिए, इट वोंट बी यूज्ड टू कंट्रोल समवन, टू डोमिनेट समवन, to limit someone. Rather than it will be a power with which will be shared by all, with which will be people will come together with that power. There will be that sense of solidarity that feminism brings in, that there is some sort of discrimination, there's some sort of marginalization, and then people can either come together feeling that, being in that empathy, that that there is someone who is facing this. There can be that empathy, there can be that lived reality as well. Yeah, even I face this, you also face this, so let's come together. So that is also the idea of feminism, which is the usage of power is rather power over some sort of domination. It's a power with, of people coming together, people empowering each other, people getting empowered. It's an idea which is emancipatory, which is based on egalitarianism, which is based on equality. So that video of mine, I see violence, I see certain sort of dominance, I see certain sense of power over. So for me, I don't know, I wouldn't personally, or as a responsible feminist, if I may say so, of a responsible person who is working, I wouldn't talk about that video. I would rather have a discussion about intersectionality, about the class difference that exists, the class reality, that caste inequality that exists, rather than making it a debate between men versus women, men's right versus women's right. Because again, if you go at like popular, like whatever people had to say, again, I mean, we should not be looking at internet and framing our opinion. I think it's very well that we have, we frame our own understanding through readings, through our own reflections. So that becomes very important. I'll stop there. I would love to take some questions. I know it's just 5 minutes. I'm sorry that I continued for long. I should have stopped earlier. But
I would just add one point on what you said.
Oh, sure.
That on social media, this outrage against feminism has a outrage of feminism over women has a distasteful behavior. True. That they don't understand what the actual thing is, but they still start to criticize feminism directly without knowing the whole thing.
Yeah, true. Absolutely. I would love to take some questions. Maybe I'll try and I have certain points. Maybe I'll see. I'm sure the questions that are asked will let me answer those things.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. Questions.
Yes, sir. So the very first question is from Shruti ma'am itself.
Okay.
That people believe that it's true. People believe, and it's actually true, that women has uncurrent patriarchy, like menstruating women are not allowed to enter dargah or temple. So how is it suspending feminism and its benefits?
Okay, so religion is actually a very tricky sort of a subject, right? It's I wouldn't call it sensitive, but it's tricky because, again, as I said, the feminism, there are like constant, there is a constant critique that is being made. There is a constant research that is being happening, and there are like a different understanding. So when it comes to religion, it differs from people to people. Like say something, again, if you look at Islam, the idea of wearing a hijab, right? And that is something wherein the feminist group is divided on it. Because there is this one idea of feminism as well, which talks about agency, that, you decide what you want to do. It's completely up to you. Even if I say that, nahi, I think that hijab is wrong and everybody should remove it, even that would be wrong. No matter how much points I'll have, oh, nahi, this is backed by the idea that women should not show their body, this and that. But a woman can very well say that, I believe in a certain ideas and I don't mind wearing it. I want to wear it. So even that needs to be respected as well. Again, coming back to, so that's what I said, religion, it's not a clear cut, it's like a constant thing, like wherein feminism in a way they discard religion or they dismiss religion. Okay, a lot of people do believe in religion, but again, we need to understand what are those practices, for me personally, how they are coming and what they are propagating, right? So say something like that, that entry in temple, menstruation being, a time when a woman is impure and all. I absolutely don't believe in it. I think that idea again comes from very much a patriarchal sort of setting, with
yes, sir.
which just sees it as it. I mean, I'm sure there are people who talks about, okay, this is an earlier thing wherein it was meant so that women don't have to work, they get rest and all. But I don't want to sort of back that things. I think to answer that, feminist movement have fought those battles. Whether we see in Mumbai, we saw the Haji Ali Dargah, or whether we see the temple, that we saw recently having the Kamakhya Devi, or Kamakhya Devi in Assam, or what was the temple? Sorry, I forgot.
Sabarmati. Not Sabarmati.
Sabrimala.
In the south, there is a temple. Sabrimala.
So,
right.
Things like that, wherein basic are constitutional rights. I also see it as through the prism of constitution. What constitution guarantees me? What are the rights? Agar right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation. These are some of the basic fundamental rights that my constitution gives me. And right to freedom means that it gives me freedom. But at the same time, now people would say that there is a right to religion as well, which may give them the right to limit it as well. But again, if I look at right to life, right to freedom, which gives me the right to life and liberty, and not just that, not just Sabrimala, say even gay rights, how religion looks at it, right? So never, I don't. So feminism will very much have a stand ki, like, if you're talking, if it's in a way, or say abortion rights. Now religion has a very strong say on all these issues: gay rights, abortion rights, entering into temples. So because it's in a way, it's about, say, something like a reproductive rights about my body, like a woman should be her safety, her own thought should be paramount. It should be her who should make the decision. Similarly, a constitution guarantees me right to equality. That would mean that a place which is being shared by a certain gender, right to equality, which very well mean that I also should be able to access that place, right? If the idea of it is based on this, that because somebody is impure, because then you'll have justification for everything. Like a Dalit can't enter a temple, you might have some justification. A black man can't do this, you will have certain justification, right? So I think religion, because at times is used as justification. So feminism, I think, as a movement is very much against it, very much questions it, very much critiques it, and very much stands with, again as I said, again with the rights of people, that rights are not being violated, constitutionally guaranteed kuch bhi hai, that should be of paramount,
according to law and order.
Totally, like
yes,
according to law and order.
So can we say that the patriarchy is an octopus which has spread all its tentacles in all direction to oppress one class of society? Can we say that?
Absolutely. How I also see this is, these are the structures, jo bhi ye power structure hai na, what they do is they operate hand in hand. So if you look at patriarchy, if you look at caste system, so patriarchy and caste hand in hand kaam karte hain. I'll give you an example, right? So say caste kya bolta hai? What is the idea of marrying in your own caste? If I would ask, if somebody can respond in the YouTube group, the YouTube chat, the idea is that you maintain your caste, right? Caste purity maintain rahe.
Same caste, yes sir.
Same caste rahe. Agar main brahman hoke brahman se शादी कर रहा हूं, the caste is maintained.
Yes sir.
ब्राह्मण का ब्राह्मण बना हुआ है, right? So pehla, and then caste as a system, we know that it's a hierarchical system, it's a power structure. Caste is also a power structure,
yes,
right? Sir. Which gives power to certain people. So अब कास्ट पेट्रियार्की के साथ कैसे काम कर रहा है? अगर हमें बोलना है कि तुम शादी उसी से करोगे जिससे मैं बोलूंगा जो कि सेम कास्ट का होगा, right? What patriarchy will do is, being a woman, obviously you don't have that right. being a woman, I'll control your body, I'll control your I'll control your sexuality, I'll control your body in such a way that you don't get to choose your partner, you don't get to choose your life partner. So that again is a very patriarchal thought, that women don't have the agency, or at times men as well, right? They don't have that agency to make that free choice about with whom they want to spend their life with, which is very integral to someone's life, right? I mean, that decision can't be made on someone's caste, someone's religion, someone's, that's some sort of compatibility that you look for, and that should be paramount. But instead, your whatever those whole things goes around that. So then you see caste trying to maintain its hierarchy, and patriarchy coming with it and being like, yeah, listen, perfect, we work hand in hand. So caste system भी preserve हो गया. Caste system कैसे preserve हुआ? क्योंकि you were able to control women's body. So
a balanced system type,
balanced system, right? Even if you bring in all other systems like capitalism, like racism, and all these systems, you see like there is some sort of hand in hand. Religion, if you bring in, these all systems go hand in hand. So true, patriarchy as a system is that octopus, and it's also that sort of group जिसमें all these power structures come together, or there's a power structure and there are these different tentacles are these different power structures. एक उसका patriarchy है, एक caste है, एक class है, एक capitalism है, एक some sort of homophobia है, and this all acts together. So that I don't know if that answered your question in any way.
Yes, sir. Yes, absolutely, sir. So one professional question for you: that you work for an organization, such a selfless and empiric organization, actually. So how tough it gets for you to maintain your public relation and your private relation, like your friends, your family, who don't support your thoughts and your work? How tough it gets for you, how you manage that thing?
That's a brilliant question. Thank you for asking that. First and foremost, I would also want to keep myself very grounded in the sense that मैंने भी ऐसे भी बहुत कुछ क्रांति नहीं की है. बहुत सारे ऐसे जगह होते हैं जहां पे मैं नहीं बोल पाता हूं. अगर मैं अपने घर पे भी जाता हूं अभी, और there's this constant idea that men do or the patriarchy does is sort of dismiss women's labor, especially जो domestic labor होता है, घर का काम होता है, you just dismiss it, कह रहे नहीं because उसमें पैसा नहीं आ रहा है, you tend to dismiss it कि ये तो ऐसे फालतू काम है. So every time I go home, I hear this thing that at times my father says or my grandmother says to my mother, कि what do you do? काम धंधा एक पैसे का नहीं, क्या करते रहते हो सारा दिन, ठीक है? And there are a lot of times when I hear it and I feel like this is really bad, it disturbs me. But there are times when I'm not able to say out, like question it. So obviously, I also want to put myself there कि ऐसा नहीं है कि like if I'm out on the road, everything that I see, I'll be like कि अच्छा okay, आज तो मैं दुनिया बदल दूंगा और मैं I'm some sort of ऐसा नहीं. It's like again there's this word that we say, we pick our battles at times, but it's important कि अगर मैं बात कर रहा हूँ इस public platform पे आके, it's very important that I start from my own place, I start from my own family, that that I question them, I question their ideas about caste, I question their ideas about patriarchy. So one is that at times it's not possible, but at times I do that as well. So what that has made is it's either like now they are conscious, they don't talk about certain things in front of me. They'll be like, if somebody is talking, they'll be like, "Arey, nahi, Altamash is sitting, let's not talk about this." So that happens. With friends, I think it becomes more easy because with family as well, as a kid, you are always taught that you can't question your father, you can't question the authority, because anything questioning is disrespectful, which is again something which as a feminist idea I would say you question it, right? So then with friends, it's like at times it gets hard to get along with people, because if you talking to them and if you and you get it from when you start talking, you get their ideas. So at times it's like a turn off, if I may use the word. It's not, I don't agree to this. And then it's up to you, because you also have your mental strength, right? You also have your mental health. It's not that if I've had a very long day and raat mein main ek party mein gaya and if I'm holding my drink and somebody is talking something, I'll be like कि नहीं अभी तुम आधे घंटा मेरा lecture सुनो. I just want to have my drink, chill and come back home, right? So it's also about at times
a kind of refreshment.
A kind of refreshment could be that or maybe I would say, I would put it across in some ways. I would show my disagreement at times. If I have that strength wherein I feel that I can get into a dialogue, I can get into a debate, I'll get into a debate. And the debate is obviously not to prove myself right, to come across as the, I had the last word, not to have that. But being a trainer, I think to have that sort of constructive sort of discussion wherein I can make them understand what my ideas are, rather than just, just saying it ki, tumhara ye paksha, mera ye paksha, let's just like go loggerheads and just keep like, endless sort of a thing. So I think that happens. And there's this word, Sara Ahmed, a very big feminist thinker and academician, an Australian academician, writes this. She uses the word, she calls it feminist killjoy. Killjoy.
Killjoy.
Killjoy. Basically, so she calls feminists as killjoy, that on a dining table, when everybody is really happy, a woman is serving the food, like a man is sitting at the top of the table or whatever, the main sort of the head of the family jo ek corner pe baithta hai, and there are like kids sitting in a way, everything is in a particular order, which is a very sort of an ideal, a happy place for who, I don't know for who, but for a society maybe. A feminist killjoy would just disrupt that. They would question it. They would very much question that why is women serving the food. They would very much question, the setting of it. So at times, what that will do is you will become a killjoy, because there was certain sort of joyness that was there in the table, in the room, but you just came there and you basically, you questioned, you asked some uncomfortable questions, right? You questioned something, you had some uncomfortable question, and thus, you became a killjoy. You basically killed that joy that was supposedly prevailing in that room.
Yes, so, even I have a very personal experience regarding this matter.
Sure.
That once my mother asked me to do something, some kind of household chef work.
Yeah.
And my grandfather, that my mother's parent, he was sitting there, and he disagreed that why are you making boy to do that work? Why you are not doing it yourself? My mother disagreed completely, and she disapproved with the statement which my grandfather gave to me. And sure. She said that this is not we teach our children to suppress women. This is very wrong thinking that people are living in, that only women are supposed to do household works or something like that.
Absolutely true. So what was happening there is, if your mother would have agreed to it, then it would have been a joyous Adarsh Bahu, who is an Adarsh Bahu who does household chores.
Household works.
Subah 4 baje utke sabke liye chai banati hai. That's what the TV tells us as well. Like, who is the Adarsh Bahu? Gopi Bahu kaun hai? जो सुबह उठ के माँ जी के लिए चाय बनाती है, जो क्वेश्चन नहीं करती है, जो सर नीचे करके बात करती है. एंड देन हु बिकम्स द वैम्पायर? जो प्रॉपर्टी के बारे में बात करती है, जो पैसे के बारे में बात करती है, जो शायद स्लीवलेस ब्लाउज पहनती है. इफ यू लुक एट द कैरेक्टर्स ऑफ दिस डेली सोप, who is the villain and who is the ideal, who is that person who is adding to that joy? It will be this sort of scenario. 4 बजे उठ के जो काम करे, that's ideal बहू. जो 7 बजे अपने मर्जी से उठे, जो अपने मर्जी से काम करे, वो vampire. So
the one who questions the society is a vampire or the black sheep.
Yeah, exactly. So that's your mother. So it in a way, वो आदर्श बहू के वो परिपेक्ष में और वो एक परिवेश में, एक society में, that became a killjoy, right? So I think feminism will always mean, it will also mean that, you will lose relations maybe. I have lost relations. I have lost, friends over this, and it's okay, I think. But at the same time, you meet people which, with same sort of ideas, and with I think same sort of ideas, but people who believe in equality. I think that's paramount, and it's always fun. I think, in my experience, equality is really fun. Equality is it's not just that. I think for me personally, although a lot of inequalities exist within my circle as well, but at least जो little bit जो भी मैं थोड़ा बहुत change देखता हूँ, I feel that it's fun. Equality is fun. So that's what
you told us that you will be coming Indore in October month. So sure. One very common question that I think every audience would have been having there in the mind, that if someone he or she wants to be part of your organization and work for you or attend your workshops, So how that would be happening?
So one is we do look for interns,
Yes, sir.
right? So I'm sure, given the technical team and what all I've seen so far with the amazing frames, amazing backgrounds and everything, if
Yes, sir.
we are looking for a communication person, who can help us with the social media and, some sort of
Promoter side of.
some sort of promotion, some sort of
Yes, sir. Yes,
campaign
sir.
they want to run. We would love to, with your sort of the technological sort of backing that you have of understanding of that, and with our understanding of whatever ground realities of feminism or whatever issues, we can like definitely club those. And because right now social media, these digital platforms are are those platforms which needs to be utilized, which are content creators are using it to raise information, to share information. So something that please do like check our website. I'll just put it in the chat box. It's
Sir, please, sir, please.
mavaindia.org. Feel free to check our website. You might find our email over email ID is mavamumbai@gmail.com. You can write to us there. Maybe like send a CV to it. बहुत ज्यादा SOP लिखने का जरूरत नहीं है. But in case जैसे just mention like what are your key areas that given you just go through our organization. Based on that, if you feel, you'll get some idea, right? You'll get our mission, vision, our idea of working, and then based
Yes,
on
sir.
that, if you can maybe create a 4-liner ka SOP that where do you think you can put yourself there. We would love to have you, and yeah, it is always fun to work.
Yes, sir. So it was great hearing you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So I can, after hearing you, I can recall a few lines of a poem named as Aurat by Kafi Azmi. It is it goes as कहर है हर एक नर्म अदा तेरे लिए, जहर ही जहर है दुनिया में तेरे लिए, रुत बदल डाल अगर फलना फूलना है तुझे, उठ मेरी जाना मेरे साथ ही चलना है तुझे. So as a speaker, Altamash sir said that he told us about his mother that morning chai wala part. I strongly believe that every woman you meet in your life is fighting insecurities. She's insecure about her career, her body, her safety. What's more, she's insecure about a very family she lives with that doesn't changes even after her family. Altamash sir also said about the finance wala thing. I strongly believe in this thing also, that she is insecure about her finances just because it is not a subject she has been taught about.
True.
And she constantly yearns for a place where she can just for once, only just for once, put down all her weapons and sit and relax. So tell that one woman in your life that it's going to be okay. She's going to figure it out and she will definitely get what she is looking for. I would wrap up this session on a very positive note.
Add one statement. Can I just like, if I can?
Yes, yes, sir. Please, sir. Please, sir. Please.
So I think that just reminded me of it. I think one thing is also, I think for men in the house, maybe I can, I just wanted to say something. One is, do acknowledge your privilege. I think, think about it, what we have, like as
Yes, sir.
privilege at times, like if I am taking a metro at 12 in the night, without giving it a second thought, that is actually a privilege. Maybe a woman can't, travel with the same sort of thought. If I go to a party, if my friend says, "Acha, listen, come over, man. It's 1 in the night, but come over." I mean, I don't give it a second thought. I'll book a cab. I'll go.
And just straight through the.
My friend was here. She had to go to Pune. Like thrice she asked me, "Acha, listen, like, can I go in the night?" I travel only in the night because I feel that I can save my time. And then I'll be like, "Oh, I'm so time savvy. I'm so like, I'm so like well organized that I manage my trip accordingly. That I'll travel only at night." But to travel at that night, that means certain things, because we don't, when we book a ticket, we never think कि अच्छा रात में 2 बजे फ्लाइट मेरा बोर्ड लैंड कर रहा है मुंबई में, मैं क्या 2 बजे वापस अपने घर आऊंगा? That thought never comes in. So that at times is a privilege which should not be a privilege, should be a basic right wherein a person should be free to just travel, right?
Yes, sir.
I think that, questioning your privilege constantly can make us, better people. I think as feminists, or as people who want to be allies or contribute, it need not necessarily be कि अच्छा मुझे अभी जाके झंडा लेकर खड़ा होना है और मुझे कोई एक आर्टिकल लिखना है तभी होगा. If we just start questioning our privilege, ठीक है, I
Yes,
think
sir.
as men, that would be a great beginning for all of us. Just
Yes, sir. It's a moral responsibility of every man, sir, because men being the part of the problem, they
Yeah.
have to be the part of the solution, sir.
absolutely, absolutely true.
Yes,
True.
sir.
So yeah, so I think with that sort of, and don't take anything for granted. Like again, think about it. So yeah, I think there was this last statement that I want to say was with a personal anecdote actually. I'll just finish on that. I remember when I started earning, and I had sent my mother a gift. Something I'd said, I can't remember exactly what was it. It was some shoe or something. So I'd sent it, and because I was sending it to her very sort of ऐसे मेरा दिमाग नहीं गया. I had addressed it to her name, like I had put it as Farhad Khan, like ठीक है, I'd put it that, and I'd put it as an address. And when it reached to her, she called me and she said, she talked about that she saw her name on the address box, which she has never seen before. Because irrespective of whatever the letter is for, it's always, whether it's for my mother, it will be in the name of, my father. So that is something I just want to end on. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Great.
you, sir. It was great listening to you, sir.
I'm sorry if I took more time. I'm really sorry.
No, sir. Absolutely not, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll leave the meeting then.
You can be here, sir. You can enjoy our next session.
Yeah. Okay. I'll join from YouTube if that's okay.
Definitely, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay.
Whatever is said, it is reliable to you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for being with us. So now next, thanks for being such a good audience. I would like to now call Mr. Sorry. I got very excited. That's why I said this. I would request our IT team to please digital memento for Mr. Altamash. So thank you, everyone. We are going to start with the next session.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you attended the eye-opening session on feminism with Mr. Altamash Khan. It was exuberant. And personally, I really enjoyed it. If you missed any of the previous sessions of LitFest 2021, you can watch it later on ADC Acropolis YouTube channel. To bring LitFest 2021 towards its end on an inspirational note, we are having My Story session with our guest, Muhammad Shams Alam Sheikh. And he has rightly said in several of his TED Talks that when God closes one door for you, he creates 100 other doors in its place. This is so inspiring and irrefutable. Good afternoon. This is Anurag Mittal, member of Entrepreneurship Development Cell Acropolis. And I'm so glad to be the moderator of this amazing session. Guys, I can't even imagine how differently abled people manage their day-to-day activities, but they still do it with a smile at the end. Like talking about me, I can't even function properly without my glasses. But it's so amazing to witness like how differently able people transform their challenges into astonishing achievements in various fields such as sports, engineering, civil services, arts and culture, etc. It is so inspiring, isn't it? I feel so privileged, honored, and very excited to invite our guest, Mr. Alam, with us, who will rejuvenate our mind. But before we start our conversation with our guest, I would like to give a brief introduction of him. Our guest Alam hails from a very humble background, and despite his physical challenge of paraplegia, he has proved his ability by becoming the national karate champion before he sustained his injury, and then becoming a professional para swimmer afterwards. An exceptional speaker, para swimming champion, a mentor to many athletes, a visionary. He has a plethora of feathers in his cap. He has been bringing glory to our nation in many ways. With his team, he strives to provide equal access and opportunities to differently abled athletes so that they can demonstrate their talent and skills on national and international scale. Alam profoundly talks about inclusivity in society. Guys, he is here with us this noon to share his story of his challenges, his achievements, and the transition from someone ordinary to someone extraordinary. So now I request the IT team to please put up the introduction video of our guest. That was a really nice video. Guys, I am personally very excited to witness his story in capacity of an auditor. And I'm sure you guys are ready to embark on this journey of inspiration. So without any further ado, let's get started. By the way, audience, if you have any questions for our guest, you can write it down in the YouTube chat box. Welcome, Alam sir. How have you been?
Thank you, Mr. Mithil. I'm doing great.
So, sir, as we discussed earlier, we are not going to be doing it a very boring speech, but we will be having a conversation. So, sir, our audience wants to know about your life, sir, about your childhood, and how did you like come into picture? Like, what were the problems with you? Can you please throw some light on that?
Thank you, Mr. Mithil. You have already said many things in my citations, and to the audience, yes, a very normal, like every other individual child. I am also a very naughty child. I was also very naughty child in my childhood, and used to play a lot of sports. Obviously, not. I was aware about that time about the swimming, but yes, cricket, gilli danda, and crickets, etc. Used to play, but yeah. As I'm from Bihar, and we all know about the Bihar education system. So please excuse me. And fortunately, my parents and my brother siblings thought me to relocate me from Bihar to Mumbai for my education purpose, and that's how I relocated from there. Yeah. But yeah, whatever time, 4 5 years I've spent during my childhood in my village, it was really fun, and I remember still all those times. And yeah, after that, Mumbai became my whole life, and everything I started here and completed my education, fortunately in engineering. And yeah, so this is a small idea about my education system. I got my disability in 2010 during my final semester of my engineering, and yeah, after that I started playing swimming, and this is in a very small way I can say about my life. And presently, I'm doing swimming as a professional. Thank you.
So, sir, at the age of 24 in 2010, you got spinal tumor, I guess, and due to unsuccessful surgeries, you got paraplegia. So, sir, at that moment of time, your life was turned upside down, I guess. So, what was in your mind? How were you feeling that time?
Mithil, this is really a tough question. And when we talk about this phase, I do go into the depressions. And yes, it is very common for any individual. Uh, and like when you are in your young age, when you are about to complete your engineering, and as I said, I moved from my village to Mumbai just for the educational purpose. Then there is a lot of hope in your family, in your village, the people who actually knows you. So they all were expecting that I will be completing my engineering and then I will be uh, getting married or some kind of job or XYZ kind of thing. But it was a sudden uh, fall down in my life, and it actually shocked me as well as many others, those who were connected with me. But yes, uh, in those difficult times, the only person who actually supported me or inspired me, she was my mom. She actually helped me a lot. She was with me 24/7 during this difficult time, and she was with me in my paraplegic rehabilitation center where I got rehabilitation after my spinal injury. So yeah, I mean, she was the best person who actually helped me to overcome, not overcome, but yes, to move ahead in my life. Thank you.
So, sir, after your injury, like, how did you get into swimming? Like, did you try any other sports as well?
Mithil, actually, I just wanted to tell you people that I was earlier a karate champion, and in 2010 I was a national medalist and about to represent my country in Asian Games 2010 China. Because when you are national medalist, you get a chance to go into the India camp and selection trial and then ahead. But unfortunately, I could not do represent my country that time because of this spinal injury. And yes, uh, side of swimming, I do play badminton sometimes. I like badminton, and I do something I'm not a stage dancer, but yeah, in house I can dance alone. And yeah, I mean, this is what I love.
That's amazing, sir. I think at least we have something in common. I also love badminton and dancing, sir. Sir, as we know, like our audience also wants to know that you have Para Sports Association Mumbai. You initiated that for helping the athletes. So can you tell us about that, sir?
Yes, Parasports Association. What happened? See, even in the today scenario, and Parasports Association Mumbai started in 2014. What happened? As I told that I was a karate player, and we know when we talk about the able-bodied sports, we have a structured body here. We have a Ministry of India, then we have Indian Olympic Association, then we have different federations for different games like boxing, XYZ games. But this is not the case in para sports. So earlier in 2014, we were having international committee. We do have international Paralympic committee. We have Asian Paralympic now. We have the Paralympic Committee of India also.
Yes,
But
sir.
so many states are there. They are not having their Paralympic state committee. So you can imagine, like district committee is a big when I come to know about the para sports and when I got to talk to the people inside the community, then I made them realize what is the importance of having the committee at a district level. how we will approach the raw talent in grassroots level. To give them a platform, we need to have a distinct board where people can come and they can show their talent, and then we can select them for the state and national and international championship. And that's how they all agreed to me, and we found the Para Sports Association Mumbai, then we found Para Sports Association Thane, and many others like this association. So the main purpose was to give a platform for the disabled people to show their talent and go there.
All right, sir. Like we had Olympics and Paralympics this year. So, what are your views on Indian performance, sir?
Yeah, I don't have to say anything. I mean, like, I can only smile, and yeah, this is the best Paralympic Games we had ever in Indian history.
Yes, sir.
We sent a team around 54 member teams, and we got 19 medals. So it is absolutely phenomenal performance by the Paralympic athletes. And yeah, I mean, able-bodied Olympians also gave their best, because the best result they gave us. We got a good, gold in first historic gold in javelin through the Neeraj Chopra. So we are very proud of him, and definitely, it's going to be change the scenario in the sports industry in India, I'm sure, and we will be definitely. India will definitely become the sports playing nation, not only the sports watching nations.
Yes, sir. That's very true. Sir, you said one thing that, sir, I want to ask you one question that you were injured in 2010 and you have met many people in sports fraternity and in society. And I feel that society plays a very important role in any differently able person's life. So do you find any change in outlook of people on differently able people? Like क्या आपको ऐसा लगता है कि लोगों का एक नजरिया बदला है इन सालों में over the years?
Mithil, first of all, I'm not. Please don't get offended, but please use the word discipline. We don't feel bad using this word, because this is the only word which is authorized by the United Nations. Differently able, specially able, and this kind of word, Divyang, this is absolutely irrelevant. We don't feel any sympathy or kind of thing. So please excuse me, but yes, disabled is the perfect word. We can use it, and we don't have any issues. In the mindset of people in the society, yes, there is a sort of changes, but we still have to go a long way. I mean, if we are talking about the people with disability, we are right now during the Paralympics 2020, we celebrated We the 50. That means we are now 15% of total population in the world. 1.2 billion people with disabilities are there with some kind of disabilities. And we as a society have to consider this, that we cannot be a developed nation, a developed country, or a developed society until and unless we consider people with disability as a part. By ignoring people with disability, no one can grow and no nation can be a developed nation. So that is what my example. Yes, if we're talking about daily life, one example I just wanted to share with all of you guys is a recent example. 2 days back, I booked a cab in Ola. Driver came to me. He looked at me, and when he saw my wheelchair, he just said, "I cannot take you." I said, "What happened, brother?" He said, "No, I cannot take you because you have wheelchair and my car is new. It will get dusty and maybe my seat will get teared off." I said, "Please don't worry. I mean, like, it is foldable. We can easily put." And all I did all excuses. I mean, like, I tried my best, but he was not convinced, and he left me. So this is the thing. Here, what I'm not telling that this is the bad attitude of the driver. It is It is the organization. How the organization do the sensitization program, that is very important. Being a service providing company in India or across the world, you are supposed to have the kind of sensitization program in the company that your driver or any field you're providing the service, your employee should know how to handle the people with disability. See, we are paying the same amount. It is not they are going to give me the concessions or something. And every single day I'm using. And the same way, like I just wanted to recall one more thing. Like in Indigo, back in 2012 and 13, there was a lot of issues kind of handling the people with disability. And when I met them and I talked to one of their employee and I told them that you need to involve us. See, nothing without us about us. For us, like if you wanted to do something for people with disability, you have to involve us because we know better what is best for us. Each and everybody knows better what is best for him or her. So they started including us. They started taking people with disability as their employee. They started teaching their staff and they started sensitizing the staff. And now, if you ask any individual wheelchair user, they will say if they have to prefer an airline, they will go to Indigo because they provide that kind of service. So this is the kind of changes comes towards the people with disability in the society when you take it personally, when you show some love toward the people. And this is what needed in other industries also. Also, I'm like, and it is not only about the industries, but it is about the individual also. When we talk and like when we go outside, people see us. I'm talking daily things like I go to swimming pool. I know how like people see me first time, but then when they saw my swimming, when they see my capabilities, their mindset changes. It is also one request to all the people with disability across the world that please stop hiding yourself inside those four walls. Please go out until and unless we will go out, we will speak, we will do our work. People around us, they might think we are nothing, we are just missing in the society. So it is always good to go out, show yourself, ask people that you need it, and once you will start raising your voice for your rights, it may help millions of people across the world. And what happened? Let me tell you a little. I mean, I posted a tweet. A tweet, actually, I never imagined it will go like viral like this. It is now retweeted almost around 1200 times, 100 plus retweets with some kind of comments, and more than 3 lakhs people has reached. There is 80,000 plus engagement in there. And you know what happened with that particular tweet? With that particular tweet, there were so many people around, they were able to actually relate their problem. They were actually able to relate themselves. And their frustration, their issues all comes out. There were so many people who were there, they were asking me like, I mean, Shams, you don't have to do this because you are having a blue tick on your profile. I mean, I know where to put the words. This is not happening with me first time. I have faced when I was in the college. Can you imagine like if you are with your friends, you book a cab driver came to you, and you are already sitting in into the cab, and when it is a time to put your wheelchair into the cab, they are denying you, and they are telling you, no, you have to get up. The kind of embarrassment, the kind of humiliation, can you imagine? This was back in 2017 with me during the Uber use. Again, I am a boy, me and my father. I took my father to a hospital for his cataract operation. After the cataract operation, I booked an Ola cab. He came. He was having a good car, and then he saw me, and then he actually denied me. You won't believe, I literally cried in front of him. I literally cried, not because myself, Because I know my father just recently got the cataract operation and we need to go to home and take relax. And he denied me. Can you imagine if someone is denying you the service while coming to your doorstep and just because you are a disabled person? I mean, when you ask me the question about what is the mindset, we need to go a long, long way in the society. We need to have some kind of love and compassion toward the people with disability. Then only we can grow. Then only we can become a good nation. And I'm not saying that this is a fault of any driver or any XYZ person. It is just because the unawareness in the society. Government, individual organizations, we need to speak about it openly. And when we speak about it, definitely there will be a changes. There will be a day when the world will be a better place for everyone. Hope I have the answers. Thank you.
Yes, sir, that's very true. And actually, it's really painful to know such incidences that happens regularly. But it is time to encounter them so that our society becomes inclusive. Sir, as you corrected me, I grateful that you corrected me that I used the wrong term. Sir, our audience is asking, can you please talk about the vocabulary for differently abled? Because we do not know actually at times that how to refer to such differently abled people. Can you talk about the vocabulary, sir?
Yeah, so some words we can use. First of all, we can use disabled word, or either you can use person with disability or people with disability.
Okay.
Also, if someone is using wheelchair, you can use wheelchair user. The best example I can give you, see, Mithil, you are using a specs. In one of my TED Talks, I already told it that if you are using specs, it is you are using to highlight your vision. I mean, like to improve your vision, and we are not calling you disabled person. Okay. The same way, if someone is using wheelchair, I am using wheelchair to increase my mobility. I'm not a wheelchair bound. Some people use wheelchair bound. This is all wrong term. I'm not wheelchair bound. I am a wheelchair user. I use wheelchair to improve my mobility. There are some people who use braille, who use technical jaws and kind of things for reading and all. So these kind of things are there. Don't call us disabled. Like if there is some blind people are there, call them people with blindness or visually impaired people. So these kind of words we can use. Differently able, specially able, and Divyang. This all are. I mean, this is just to show some sympathy, but I'm sure that people with disability are actually not looking for any kind of sympathy. It is only what we are looking is empathy. If you can just empathize us, if you can understand our problem, our issues, that is the best part. See, someone like if I'm using wheelchair, I go nowadays I'm not going, but when I used to go to in various colleges, seminar or kind of thing, people used to come and just they used to push my wheelchair without knowingly. Without knowingly, if you are pushing someone wheelchair, I may fall down because I don't have balance. When I am driving, वो कहते हैं ना कि जिसका बंदर वही नचाए, तो वैसा होता है. I mean, this is my wheelchair, and I know how much acceleration I have to give, where I have to take turn, and where I have to stop. So one example I just wanted to share you during my first trip to Canada. I was having a coach, Mr. Kawaljit Singh, and he was like very excited. He saw a wheelchair user and was like, Shams, your wheelchair is running very fast. It's very smooth. It's very good and kind of thing. I wanted to drive it. And I was like, sir, please don't do. Please don't do. I will fall. No. It's good. It's good. I will do it. I will do it. And suddenly, I mean, like, before entering into in my room, there was a ramp. And he tried, I mean, like, he gave a jerk. And I fell down. And he was like, I said, I know. I told you, don't do this. I know what is my issues. So please ask people if someone is wheelchair user or someone is having some kind of need. See, it's a bit obvious when I go to into the railway. If I travel, I know I will not be able to get into the railway. So I ask someone to get me inside the railway. If I'm asking you, that is absolutely fine. But if I'm not asking you and if you are trying to support me, it is not bad. I mean, I know your intention is good. You are trying to help me, but your help may cause me some issues. So it's better to ask someone. There is nothing wrong in asking. Hope I answers. Thank you.
Yes, sir, I have a question in my mind. Like, there are two type of disabilities, like one which is since birth and the other which you got later, like which is due to some accident. So do you feel is there any psychological difference between the two disabilities in the person's mind?
Yes, Mr. Mittal. Sometimes there is a difference because people, those who are born with disabilities, uh, they don't feel much, obviously. And in the cases like me, those who actually acquire some kind of disability, uh, they go some kind of trauma because we have seen without disability life also. We have been with friends, we have been in colleges without disability. So after disability, there are some changes, but I mean, it takes some time. But the only message to all my people with disability friends, those who are born with disability and those who are acquire the disability after some time, please accept yourself the way you are. Until and unless you will accept yourself, nobody is going to accept you. So it is very important what you think about yourself. Others' word, other imaginations, others' vision or missions does not match you, does not describe you actually. It is always yours and it is always yours effort which actually describe you. So please believe in yourself and keep going. Thank you.
Uh, Sir, like I represent youth, so there are a lot of young minds, young children who feel demotivated at times on just very small issues. But like talking about you are a great inspiration, sir, for all of us. So what do you want to say to us, to youth, so that they just get back to their work without any fearing of any failures and stay motivated basically? How can we do that, sir?
See, Mr. Mitchell, to be very honest, I'm not a great inspiration kind of thing, but yes, I am trying to get motivated through myself. I feel if you cannot motivate yourself, you cannot motivate others. And this actually applies to me when I can say you a few more practical examples. Like, I mean, last week, due to heavy training, I was not actually understanding why it is happening. I fall down 3 times, in last 20, 25 days. Then I asked my coach and he said, like, you are doing overtraining. And that's the reason your body is not getting recovered. Because evening you're doing gym, again, morning, early morning, you're going for the swimming. So your body is not getting recovered. But then, what happened, what I'm trying to tell you, friends, is I went to swimming pool and there was a very small issue. I mean, like in swimming pool, we have steps to go inside, which obviously a wheelchair user cannot. Then there is a backside door. I can go from there, but still it is not accessible. I mean, there is some ups and downs. However, it is very small for any individual or people without disability, but for wheelchair user, it is a big issue. So I was standing there for half an hour. I can see the swimming pool, but I cannot swim. Like you have food, but you cannot eat it. So I was like very frustrated and I was just thinking why this is happening with me. I mean, why I'm disabled. I can see, but I cannot still go. But then I waited. I had some patience. I tried, saw some people. I mean, like I asked people, and then someone helped me. So this is kind of help I asked, and then I entered. One day, I was going, and I fell down. Actually, my wheelchair actually went 2, 3 meters far from me, and I was not able to reach to my wheelchair. And I was in a garden kind of thing. The people were not there. I mean, some people were outside. I was actually screaming. I was asking for a help. And that time I realized how disabled I am. I mean, like, I was actually, I mean, I was feeling, yes, I am disabled today because I know I'm trying to reach out to people. I cannot scream like that. I cannot reach out to my wheelchair. I cannot even stand up and sit on my wheelchair. So that was some moment. And this is all real time experience I'm sharing with you guys. But then, obviously, time is the best medicine for everything. It took some time. People came and they helped me, and then I sit on my wheelchair, and then I again started. So, why I said if you cannot motivate yourself, you cannot motivate others. After this kind of tragedy, also, I didn't stop. I did my full swimming. I did complete my swimming session, and every single day, I'm doing it. I'm doing it just because I know I have to do it, because if I will not do it, nobody else is going to do for me. I have to speak it, because if I will not speak, nobody is going to speak for me. So those people who are getting demotivated because of some sort of issues, maybe their issues I cannot relate, their issues will be big or small. It's happened. For each and everyone, their issues is big. And we cannot compare. The first thing issues arises when we start comparing ourselves with others. So please stop comparing yourself, and for your problem, for your issues, God has given you the capability. Allah has given you the mind, the best thing which you can use, and you can find the solution. And believe me, friend, it may take some time. It will take some time. But once you find the solution for that difficulty, you will be the best person to guide many millions of people across the world. And once you will start, you may talk like me. You may be the inspiration and motivation for others. And please stop. I mean, I'm not telling you, see, at very early age, I know. When I got this disability suddenly, I was not like this that time. Let me tell you, I was surely not like this. I was also, my condition was in the night, I used to go, whole night I used to cry. It was just because, obviously, it's a bit obvious. I was thinking, a 23, 24 years young guy was having so many things in their life, so many dreams. Everything got shattered. So it was a moment. But then, it is the only thing which is time. Time is the best medicine for everything, which actually help you to grow in your life. Have patience. Patience is very important. I know it is very difficult here right now. I was planning since 2016 to participate in Paralympic Games. Unfortunately, pandemic came. I could not go outside of the country to qualify, and I wasn't able to represent my country in Paralympics. So this is, I know what I was trying to do, but I could not. But it doesn't mean that the life is finished. I do have chances. 2024 is ready. And 2022 Asian Paralympic Games, Asian Para Games are there. So it is something where I can definitely perform. I can always bounce back stronger. So when you have some problem, have patience, give some time, definitely you will come over it and you will bounce back stronger. Thank you.
All right, sir. That was really inspiring, sir. Sir, I would like to ask you the last question for this session, sir. What are your future plans, sir? What are your future endeavors, sir?
I mean, Mr. Mittal, I just told, I mean, definitely we have a short-term goal, 2022 Asian Para Games is coming up, then World Championship is coming up, and then 2024 Paralympic Games is coming up. And definitely I I will never ever imagine to miss all this opportunity. I'm doing all my work hard, and my support staff is trying my best to reach this goal. And definitely, with the support of all of you guys and the prayers from my beloved one and my own, strength and my own capabilities, whatever I'm trying. I know I'm trying best, and this will definitely, my hard work will definitely take me to all these stages, and we will definitely fulfill this dream.
Indeed, sir, indeed. We all support you, and I wish you luck for all your future endeavors. I know you will make us always proud like you do. Sir, this session was really insightful, amazing, and our audience is also praising you. Sir, now to end this session, I request IT team to present the memento for you, sir.
Shyam sir, when we entered 2021, given the dismal happenings of 2020, Litmus was 1000% gung about organizing a virtual LitFest. The strenuous and heart-wrenching months of April and May further cemented that fervor. Now it's time to put a Purna Viram to LitFest 2021. I'm work-length. I, Shruti Agrawal, Litmus faculty leader, have a truckload of people to thank. First and foremost, our stellar speakers, they really catapulted the event forward. Our cubs, that is, volunteers of EDC, who will one day become lions, EDC advisors and leaders for their indefatigable support. A huge shout out to the IT team. You guys sorted the fest. I'm also incredibly grateful to Mrs. Vandana Sharma, Manager Entrepreneurship Development Cell, for being my limb throughout the event. I would have really crumbled without her support. I'm also grateful to Acropolis's management team for always believing in us. I am profoundly grateful to Atul Bharat, Chairperson Entrepreneurship Development Cell, for being our guide. And especially you, my art, literature, and music buff. Until next time, signing off.